going back to what you said about excellence of execution. So obviously he'd used that term for a few different wrestlers, but it stuck with Bret Hitman Hart. Bret's written the foreword to your book, and very touching the kind of words he says. He kind of talks about, to paraphrase, he talks about how I can't quite remember words, but something around it's very, not many good men in wrestling, and that good men die like dogs. And
good men die like dogs.
Yeah,
yes,
beautiful line.
Yes.
And their friendship went back a long, long way, didn't it, to the days in Stampede. And I would say that Gorilla Monsoon played a very key role in the Bret Hitman Hart presentation through what he did on commentary. How did their kind of relationship evolve, and what would, from your research, what would you say impact Gorilla Monsoon had on Bret Hart's trajectory?
A big impact. He was a champion of his from the beginning, even going back to the Hart Foundation. Even before that, when he was kind of like cowboy Bret Hart for about 5 minutes when he first came in, and they didn't know what to do with him, riding on a horse and stuff. So he went back with the Hart family to about 1960, 61, which I didn't fully know at the time. The Calgary, the Stampede territory, it was his first full-time break as a pro wrestler. He'd been dabbling in it in upstate New York and in Toronto and Montreal. But Calgary was where he quit his day job and really went in all in. He had to travel, 3,000 miles away from home and stay there for 6 months. And he got to know the whole Hart family. Bret was a little kid at the time. Owen wasn't even born yet. And so they knew each other from then. And then they met years later, actually, in the late 70s and early 80s in Puerto Rico, when Bret would come through there because Gorilla was there a lot. And so, Stu Hart was beloved by those guys. Arnold Skoland was the best man at Stu and Helen's wedding. So
wow, didn't know
those
that.
guys, because he met Helen in New York City. So, he was familiar with a lot of those New York wrestlers. And when Bret came in, Gorilla really took a shine to him. He would put him over all the time on commentary. He would talk about the Hart family. He really got that over. The whole Hart family thing, Stu and Helen and the dungeon and Calgary and all the brothers and sisters, like that was him. He really got that across. He gave Bret that nickname. And one of the things about Gorilla, even though obviously he was a gimmick wrestler, he was a big power wrestler, he had a great respect for the technicians in wrestling and the guys who were just great workers. And I don't just mean like technical scientific wrestling. I just mean guys that were really great workers and understood the fundamentals of how to work. He loved seeing a great wrestling match. And sometimes, as even bled through on his commentary, sometimes he wasn't that thrilled with some of the matches he was calling, honestly, and he was being very diplomatic. So when he found people like Bret Hart, and there were others too, he would really latch onto that and really love watching them. And so he was somebody that was pushing for Bret to be a top star even before he was, when people didn't really see him that way. That's the thing. And so when it finally happened, that was very important to him that, that they were giving him the ball to run with. Like you'll see, for example, at WrestleMania 10, when he beats Yokozuna for the title, Gorilla comes in the ring and he's celebrating with everybody. He never did stuff like that. He does that. And then years later, when they have a couple of years later, when they have the Iron Man match and he's the president at the time, he's standing in the ring with Bret and Shawn Michaels and Earl Hebner. But where is he standing? He's standing right next to Bret. And you could just see how proud he is in that photo, even though that was the night that Bret was going to lose, and partly because of the president's decision, quote unquote, to continue the match.
I forgive him now. It's fine.
Yeah, newsflash, that was not Gorilla's edict. That was Vince McMahon, for people that don't get it. But I mean, he was so proud of Bret, really, all the way through.